Right then, everybody, we're now live, running a little bit late, but not by much. In fact, I might even cut this countdown a little bit short and just dive straight into things. But it does actually give me a little bit of time to do a couple of last-minute announcements, because we have ourselves a guest which I was going to announce earlier on today, but we were waiting on confirmation. This is for our Wednesday show. This is for our midweek shows we're running while the UK is currently in lockdown. We've got this Wednesday and next Wednesday. We were running a little bit late on getting a confirmation because the guest that we've got on is a very busy chap indeed. But we are going to be joined by Aditya Bidikar. This is a name that you will have seen on all of your favorite comics. He is certainly the lettre du jour. Incredibly busy. We're going to be talking to Aditya about all of the projects that he's got currently on his plate, including the Department of Truth, which I've managed to see read issue 3 of. And my God, what he's doing with that book is truly incredible. So that's on Wednesday. And we've also got ourselves a bit of a thing where we can tell you about the other episodes coming up. This Sunday, for the special we're doing with White Noise Studios, yes, we have got all 4 all lined up. Alex Packnadell, Ram V, Dan Waters, Rhino Sullivan. Waiting on a confirmation for Wednesday 2nd. We do have ourselves Amanda Dybert joining us on the 6th of December. Also, we've got Mark Serby at the back end of that show because he wants to come on and talk about the streaming platforms and also how the cinema landscape has changed, certainly with all of the major films, bar one, moving out of the Christmas season. So we're going to get into that. Sunday, 15th of December, Bob Fingerman and Matt Medney. We've got a bit of a double header on that day. Looking forward to talking to them. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But this Wednesday, Aditya Bidikar is going to be our special guest. 40 seconds. You know what? Let's cut to the chase and dive in because we've got ourselves 2 great guests joining us today, and they have got one hell of a book to talk to us about. Hello, let's turn that off and say hello to everybody. Hello there. Well, listen, it's very late here in the UK. It's not the usual time that we do this show, but I'm here. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm firing on all cylinders. I'm okay. I'm all tanked up on Red Bull. I'm wide awake. I'm fine. Welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and each and every Sunday and Wednesday during lockdown, we talk Comic-Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that we get to enjoy at such shows, except when we are able to get on a special guest and we can accommodate them to come on and do one of these, our incidental episodes, our drop-in shows, where we can kind of focus on shine the spotlight on a specific creator or a specific book. And that's exactly what we're doing today, because we have ourselves 2 for the price of 1. We've got Jason Inman and Ashey Robinson joining us. Hello there. How are you?
Hi.
I am happy to kick off the first edition of UK Nights for your show.
So nice to talk to a Commonwealth brother as a Canadian.
I'm outnumbered. I'm outnumbered here.
The niceness is now 2 to 1. It's just the way it's going to work. This is not going to be an Englishman in San Diego after dark. All right, this isn't going to suddenly start peeling off. Don't worry, we'll keep it nice and clean.
That's what the OnlyFans is for, right?
Have I got to launch that yet? I've really got to think about putting that out there.
Everyone I know has started one.
Would that just be pictures of like you show the cover and then you show that you actually show the interior of the comic and everybody's like, ooh, scandalous.
No, that'll be where people actually donate money to me, say, for God's sake, put them on. Put them on. No, we don't want to. No flesh, for God's sake. Hey, listen, Dune's out next year. The Baron Harkonnen thing. No, Dune's out next year. There you go. One for the deep cut for the sci-fi fans. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. Very grateful for you to joining us, if anything, because of the timing. Because the book that we're going to be talking about, 2 days' time, coming out on Action Lab. Mm-hmm. Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. Congratulations on the book. It must be thrilling to know that it's going to be out in stores on Wednesday.
Yes, it's because when I was here last time, it was kind of the idea that we were still like dealing with all the COVID delays, and we were just like, I don't know when this book is going to hit. So like now it feels so nice to know that it's going to be in stores on Wednesday. Actually, it's funny because we're gonna go
pick up our copies tomorrow.
We're gonna go pick up our copies tomorrow. Actually, yeah, today for you, but tomorrow for us.
It's surreal because the book for us has been done for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it's really gratifying that other people are finally gonna get to see it.
Well, let's talk about the timing then, because I'm really excited about projects that do the model that you are doing, which is that you have a huge chunk, if not a massive proportion of the book done and dusted. So you're using Kickstarter to establish that relationship with fans and to make sure that the creative team are paid before launch of the book. It's I'm not going to say the most civilized way of doing it, but it seems like the best way for the creative team to feel that they are supported. Considering that so much when it comes to comics is reliant on that back end and when the book is finally out, this is a way for that creative team to get supported. What is the timetable has been for this? I mean, how long has it been completed? When did the project start coming together?
It's been completed, inks, letters, formatting, everything since June.
Wow.
Because we do everything ahead of time. And then it's just a matter of when you work with a publisher, you work on your publisher's schedule. And that has pluses and that has minuses. And a minus to that can be you don't get to pick when your release day is. And then a massive pandemic hits and it moves around a little bit. But so it's been done for us since June. We finished writing it in April, May?
Early April.
Early April.
But here's the fun fact. We actually started writing Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio literally exactly a year ago.
Yes.
In November, November of last year is when we started writing, because we wanted to before we launched the Kickstarter. Ben was starting or what we call them issues just to make it easy. Like so, every 20 pages we call them issues, even though we're releasing it all as one. But Ben was on the third section of the third issue, basically, when the Kickstarter launched. He had already finished the first two.
And when we did the first Kickstarter, we only had 5 pages done.
We only had 5 pages.
We had 30-some pages done by the time we ran the second one because we had all the metrics. We had more of an audience. We'd done Science in Between. I'd done Aurora. Jason done Super Soldier. So we knew that we had a better chance than somebody starting right out the gate who'd never published a book before. So we felt more confident having a lot more of it under our belt before we launched this time, because we did the Kickstarter. When did we do the Kickstarter? January.
I
don't know what time is anymore.
January this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about this with Jason last time he was on. I mean, we were talking about March and how things have developed since then, and it's been 5, 6, 7 decades since then. It's definitely time is definitely fluid. I can imagine certainly over the course of the summer, and as you've been getting the Kickstarter up and running, and as you've been developing the book, things have just kind of blurred. I can imagine things have been a bit wobbly around the edges if you just kind of try to focus how the project's gone.
We're just living inside a giant cardboard box at this point because all of the shipping supplies are in our living room right now.
Oh, my word. Hey, listen, I saw the headline about Johnny Rotten today being bitten by a rat or something, and it was on a date with one of Donald Trump's legal team. I'm thinking, okay, the Matrix is glitching in a big way here, man. The code is fraying at the edges.
It does feel appropriately on brand, though, for him to get bit by a rogue animal, though. Like, that feels appropriate to me.
Absolutely. We've got a whole bunch of people who are joining us. As always, everyone, if you do have any questions for Jason and Ashley, do dive in. We've got Solistra Smeg. Isn't it midnight where you are? Do you need pure caffeine for this one? I'm keeping nicely hydrated. Thank you so much indeed for the concern. Are you drinking Monster instead of tea? You see, and Aaron Neighbours, cup of beer with an Englishman in San Diego. I'm not having alcohol at this time of night. That would just send me completely off the rails. But there we go. Let's actually talk about the origins of Jupiter Jet, because I mean, you mentioned a couple of the influences in the Kickstarter videos for the book. You definitely mentioned Rocketeer, obviously. But I mean, I see Danger Girl in there. I see a little bit of Squirrel Girl, that kind of chutzpah and attitude and that youthful ambition. That's where I see influences. What were they for the pair of you?
I mean, the biggest influence for this book for myself, and any time that we're like combining our script together, is I'm always like, it needs to feel like those adventure books from the 90s. And what I mean by is that when DC and Marvel were publishing the tie-in books to the cartoons, they all like called them adventures. So you had X-Men adventures, Spider-Man adventures, Batman adventures, Superman adventures, Justice League adventures. And there were these great one and done, no continuity stories. And the secret of the whole thing is that Superman adventures, Batman adventures were like actually excellent comic books, and Superman Adventures was actually like low-key probably the best Superman book being published in the 90s, and nobody realized it because it was being written by Mark Miller. It's how he broke into DC Comics. So like I was always like, our tone has got to be that. It's got to be pure, but like still with a great story that an adult can love and not think is talking down to them. That was always like my key influence, was those adventure comics.
I know for me, there's a lot of Tim Drake influence because 90s Robin is the greatest Robin. Don't tweet me because I am correct. And something that Chuck Dixon, who wrote the stories, did that I found very effective, and he does it in Birds of Prey as well, is he opens and closes with a splash page in each of his issues. That's not something that we're doing as much in this because we're publishing this as an original graphic novel, but that's something that I think about a lot, is the way that he told those types of stories. And even though they were mired in continuity, how accessible they were for a new reader who just kind of knew that Batman was Batman and fought the Joker. And then for me, Kim Possible is a big influence hanging over this. I loved that show when it was on. And it always goes back to Sailor Moon for me, because I came up with the name Jupiter Jet because Sailor Jupiter is my favorite Sailor Scout. And so it's an homage to Makoto, and her core colors of green and purple are also Sailor Jupiter's core colors. So she's always, in a very abstract way, sort of hanging over anything Jupiter Jet that we do.
Nice. And for those who perhaps aren't familiar with the run, if you can give the elevator pitch or the synopsis of the story, certainly not of Jupiter Jet 2. Let's get into that in a bit. Let's go for the overarching story, starting off with Jupiter Jet. 2017 when the book came out. So you've definitely got the elevator pitch down now by hopefully. Who is Jupiter Jet?
So executives watching this, you can contact us at any time. We'd love to sell. Jupiter Jet is what if Kim Possible met the Rocketeer. She is a 16-year-old girl in 1935 who inherits a jetpack from her deceased father with a mysterious power source. And like any teenager, she uses it to rob from the rich and give to the poor and fight bad guys with glowing eyes who may not be from this world. Plus, there's a cat in it, and the internet loves cats.
I mean, the artwork is absolutely stunning, and it's great that you've got a continuity of the creative team. We'll talk about the slight shift with
A
some of the
plus
colorists.
spelling colors correctly. Yes, colors
Thank you.
has a U in it.
Oh my word! I mean, listen. I've said it before, and I've kind of put myself out there and really put a target on my back. It's a phrase that a friend of mine used. I've co-opted it from him. There's no such thing as international English. There's no such thing as American English. There's no such thing as English, British English. There's English and there's wrong. That's the way.
Except when spell check is involved.
Yes. Yeah, okay. When your browser decides to go, what country you're in? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we write for an American publisher and a predominantly American audience. Although I will say we got a good Australia contingency and we have a surprising Israel contingency. So shout out to them for supporting us. Jason's always like, hey, we're going to use the American spelling. Because
I'm always like, there's no
American
you in
publisher.
favorite. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good point. Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Certainly across the whole, both Kickstarters and the support that you've had for the book, what has been the demographic? Where has the audience come from? Is it completely worldwide?
It has mostly been worldwide because we always get a weird email, and it's not weird, but thankful. Like, I mean, when the first book came out, we got a lot of emails from Ireland, actually, and there were a bunch of people in Ireland asking us how to buy the book, and I was like, I honestly don't know.
Like, bully your comic book store.
Yeah.
That would be Big Bang Comics, perhaps.
Yeah, I literally
the
said, go to talk to your shop, I guess, or you could buy it directly from us. But yeah, it has been worldwide. I mean, the most thankful thing that I've seen, and it's the awesome thing, and anybody if they're going to buy the book this week or anytime in the future, if you're reading this to your children, please take a picture.
It's the best.
And tag us in it at JupiterJet Comic on Twitter or, all our social medias. And I will happily retweet it because it's the best thing ever. Like, we've discovered, like, especially Volume 1, a lot of people were like, I read this to my kids and they loved it.
Nice.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we meant to make a 4-quadrant story, if you know what that, if you know what the 4 quadrants are. But I think we accidentally backslid into it.
Yeah, but I also think because of the Kickstarter economy being the way it is, like, our audience definitely skews North American. We got a lot of good Canadians on there.
We do
But
have a lot
it's
of good
cool when
fans.
it's like, oh, this is going to Kazakhstan or this is going to Jordan. Like, I
Wow.
didn't even know people live. Like, we on our podcast, we have like someone in American Samoa is like holding it down for us with the listens, and I'm always like, yeah, American Samoa, make yourself known. I will come visit when it's safe.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the international audience will make sure that you have at least a sofa or two across the globe
Yeah.
for you to go and camp on if and when we can all fly out and visit each other again. I think the reason why I brought up the demographic, and I mean the book is clearly it's an all ages book, and I like the fact, I liked the line that you're aiming this for people aged 4 to 94. That was a nice line. Yeah, that's a pretty big target audience you're going.
We're just trying to be Pixar.
But the Kickstarter rewards are very much geared towards also those who are wanting to find out more about creating not only comics but also podcasts. So it is a slightly older demographic for, say, those that are buying the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I mean, one of the great things about doing anything on the internet is you can see analytics for it, and I mean, our analytics definitely are, the sweet spot is like 25 to 35. So yeah, we always want to make sure that we have rewards or ideas or stories for that group, but also, you don't want to ignore that. You want to take care of that. But, it's for everybody and for a little, I don't know.
But we also, especially with Jupiter Jet Volume 1, we had a lot of help making that book what it was and making it as successful as it was. We had help from Alex Segura over at Archie Publishing. We call him the grandfather of Jupiter Jet because he helped us workshop the pitch that got sold. We got Nicholas Scott and John Boyle Myers donated their art to be our cover because we were sad and they took pity on us and they helped. So that's something that we really feel passionate about, paying forward. And I love nothing more, especially when people are looking for script notes, than when they turn around and do a Kickstarter and then we get a chance to back it, because opening those doors for other people when they might not have thought they could open it for themselves can be really powerful. But I will say, from the course of our Kickstarter campaign, we always do Skype calls, which is one of the coolest rewards that we get to do. And we get to talk to people directly. And we do have a young man, shout out to Tobias. I think he's 13 or 14 now.
Oh, wow.
And we Skype with him. His dad always gets the Skype reward. And he's so cool.
Yeah.
He's so smart. I hope he can be our intern someday. Paid internships. You should pay the people who work for you. But it's really cool to know that you can have that kind of influence on somebody in their formative years. And also, it's a lot of responsibility.
I mean, it's so thrilling to have that kind of pay it forward mentality when it comes to the Kickstarter. What's the kind of split between, is it artists that have gotten involved, or is it writers, is it podcasts? What's the kind of balance between people who have kind of taken this opportunity on board to learn from people who've been doing it for a while?
It skews pretty heavily to writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we're not artists.
Yeah, I can tell you my opinion, but
I mean, look, I can doodle, and I will tell you that I'm working on the next Kickstarter now, and I'm debating about putting a variant cover as drawn by me on there, just to see if anybody would be interested. But I say that, like, my art skills stop at about, and this is no insult to Bruce Timm, but like that's about as detailed as I can get a Bruce Timm style person.
Okay,
it looks like a person, but it's kind of misshapen.
So you're not talking Tom King style.
No, I'm
yeah. That's where my art skills are.
I'm above that. Thank God. But no, yeah, it's mainly writers, and I think that's because you always, if you like a story by somebody, like, you always want to be like, I'm always constantly, for writers that I admire, especially like people like Mark Russell, I'm always like, how does your brain work? I need to know, because I want to, like, absorb this secret weird knowledge, or how your brain puts pieces together.
Cool. And I'm going to try and word this without insulting you, or at least upsetting you, because it is a question that I'd like to ask, and what your thoughts on it, considering that, I mean, Jupiter Jet, it was a successful campaign. It did incredibly well in terms of reaching its target, getting to its stretch goal. Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, it reached the same kind of numbers. And this is after Volume 1 did get a Ringo Award, and it got a lot of attention, and it certainly opened with a splash. What's your take on how the second campaign has gone? As I mean, the first campaign, it was, I've got the numbers here, it's 26,213. Jupiter Jet and Forgotten Radio, 25,637. So about the same. What's your take on that? Did the pandemic kind of bring the number back to equilibrium? What was your thoughts on it?
So here's the fun fact about that number, because I actually think the second campaign did way better. But there's a number that most people in the public don't get to see, and that is the add-ons through BackerKit. And the add-ons through BackerKit were triple what they were on the first campaign.
Yeah.
Now, I will also say that for the second campaign, we funded faster. It took us 4 days to get that amount on campaign 1. It took us 24 hours to get that same amount in the first one. Now,
and ultimately, that's all.
Yeah.
Work. I mean, would I have loved it if it had hit 50 or 100? And do I hope that we reach that someday? Of course. But, like, ultimately, as long as we can pay the creative team, all the rest of it's gravy.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, like, I look at it as a win. Like, it was about a little bit less. But to be honest, at the same time, there's some real world factors in that. Like, I wasn't working full time when we did the first Jupiter Jet. I am now. So I couldn't put as much work into the promotion or do anything like that.
And when we did Volume 1, we were both on internet shows that were super, super visible. When we did number 2, we were not. And look, maybe some people just didn't like Volume 1, and that's fine.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. When I announced that the pair of you were coming on the show, I just got contact left, right, and centre. I got, yes, okay, yeah, I'm a Jupiter Jet fan. So trust me, I doubt that very, very much. I doubt.
And to be honest with you, it would not surprise me if, just like movie sequels, because again, we've always said that we want Jupiter Jet to be 5 volumes. Mm-hmm. If Volume 3 and Volume 4 and Volume 5 are a little bit less, a little bit less, and a little bit less, as far as I'm concerned, as long as they fund, that's a good thing. But also, like,
it's a higher bar for entry with each subsequent.
I understand the baggage of people being like, well, I didn't read Volume 1. Do I really want to support Volume 2? Or I didn't read Volume 2. Do I really want to support Volume 3? Like, I think you're just going to naturally and some people that read Volume 2 might be like, I didn't like Volume 2, but I did like Volume 1. I think that's a natural. I'm not offended by that question at all. I think it's an interesting question to think about. It's one of those discussions of like, yeah, are you better off always going to Kickstarter with a brand new idea every single time, or are you better off creating a series? And I think there's pluses and minuses to both.
And also, these are no one's ever asked us that, and no one has ever asked us like, what was it like to do science versus Jupiter Jet?
Yeah.
And so I actually really appreciate that we're like peeling back the layer on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also really curious it's the question I've been asking a lot over the course of the summer. With creators that have taken to Kickstarter. I mean, it's really obvious that people have done this, and you were there before the pandemic doing this, connecting with the audience, because that is when the real successful Kickstarters shine. It's not necessarily, or it's I'm not going to say it's a byproduct to get a book funded, but it's to definitely establish that relationship with an audience and to feel a real personal connection with the people that you're selling the book to. The question I've been asking over the course of the summer then is, how did the pandemic really affect your approach to the Kickstarter, whether you felt that the Kickstarter may be put back until next year, or just how your mindset was going into this Kickstarter in the landscape of COVID?
So, not to get deeply political, but at the time that we launched this, we didn't know what COVID was.
Yeah.
So
we were a couple months ahead.
We're very fortunate that we did this in January, as I learned at the beginning of this podcast. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have any real overlap. All of our COVID issues have been sort of on the back end. Like, our printing and our publishing was delayed due to, like, everyone knows the comic industry is in a real growing period right now. We're sort of swinging wildly back and forth and figuring out what it's going to look like after
when we
this.
completed the book was when when every company, Marvel DC, was not publishing books. Like it was this weird thing where like, here's the book. Oh God, who knows if this is coming out?
And we tried to stress to the Kickstarter backers, because we're like, look, we hope it's coming out before the end of this year, but like, we gave you a digital copy. Please, you can read it right now. You have it. Please enjoy it.
Yeah, that was, and that was a thing too. And I've heard the great Charlie Stickney of Scout Comics, and he said this several times, and I kind of believe this, that the Kickstarter audience is different than the comic book retailer audience. And I do believe that they are two audiences. I think the Kickstarter audience, you will have some crossover, because you will have some people be like, I want to support them no matter what. I'm going to do it both sides. But I do think you said it earlier, Leonard. I think the thing of people supporting people, that's what I really think has happened in the world of Kickstarter and the internet exploding and Patreon and stuff like that. They don't care what the idea is, they care about you. And if they like you, they're going to support you. Whereas in the retailer end of it, I think it is about the story or the art.
Or your 25 variant covers. Or no shade to anyone who does that, but like, that is a very real selling tactic.
Do you have a Robert Liefeld, variant cover or whatever? But no, we were really lucky that we always buffer a lot in our Kickstarter goal. And if you go look at our campaign, it's funny. It says December 2020, and to be honest with you, we're so happy the book's finally coming out this week, so that we can we'll make it on time. Yay! We were hoping to beat that by months. But that was basically the big production was where it really affected us. I will say, we considered running another campaign this year, but and I think this is a good rule. Like, other Kickstarter people can do whatever they want, but I'm a big fan of don't do your next campaign until you've fulfilled the first one, until everybody has their things. Now, I know other people run it and you can overlap, and that's fine. But I also know personally, I have donated to Kickstarters that have never fulfilled, and those were years ago. And I never want somebody to think that of us. I always want us to, like, no, here's the book. It's a real thing. We did not lie.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen that in the campaign videos. It's something you're very proud of, that you've fulfilled all the campaigns that you've run. Absolutely. I'm really curious as well about the support that Action Lab have given you. Obviously, they've had the same issues and difficulties that all comic publishers have had this year. What's the kind of conversations been like? How supportive have they been?
They've printed the book and put it in stores.
And got it and put it in stores.
Yeah, which to be completely fair, that's all they ever promised to do for us.
Yeah,
and that's what they've done.
Fair enough.
But that's
that.
Well, that's it. That's the other thing, and we have no problem doing this in any videos or podcasts you see as well. That's the real secret about creator-owned comics, even Image. That I think people don't realize that unless you're like working at like Marvel, DC, IDW,
nobody does very much for you.
They basically are just like, did you get it to the printer on time? All right, whatever. You know, like that's the max you get.
Yeah.
Okay. Because every time I've kind of had interactions with Action Lab, it seemed a little bit more friendly and a little bit more interactive. But it's interesting to know that, or interesting to hear that that's.
Well, again, that might be.
And look, that's just our experience.
Yeah, and that might also be 2020 Action Lab as well.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
Fair enough. And also, like I did touch on this earlier, we'll very quickly cover it. I'm certain there's no drama, but why the slight change in the creative team?
That's fine.
No drama.
Mara Jane Carpenter, who was our original colorist, is #booked and blessed. So she had other paid opportunities. So she already had things to do. And she actually recommended Elizabeth Kramer, who came on for volume 2. And Liz had an opening in her schedule. And Liz is now very #booked and blessed. So I like to think of, maybe we're the launching point for some fabulous colorists in the industry. But we wanted as much of the band back together, people's schedule permitting as possible. And because we are a creator-owned, and we are a Kickstarter book, we can't necessarily pay as much as some larger scale publishers. So when people can get higher paid work, we have no issues whatsoever with them taking it. So Mara was just too good.
Mara was too
sweet for the world.
Mara was too talented and too busy to work with us. That's what it is.
You see, this is where you just you bring them up, you feed them, you get them walking, you take off the training wheels, and they just leave and abandon you.
They leave just when they're getting interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch! Oh dear me. Excellent stuff. I'm really curious to know about the 5 arc of Jupiter Jet. Like you say, you're planning the third Kickstarter, or you're planning the next one down the line. How much of it is nailed down? How much of it is kind of like plotted out, or are you keeping things pretty loose at the moment? Where are you at with the story for the Perry?
We're keeping things. I'll tell you this. We've known the final scene of the entire series since volume 1. Like, we know exactly the last 5 pages. Like, we know exactly what it's going to be, who's going to be in it, and what we're going to... Who's still alive. And in terms of, like, volume 3 and volume 4 and volume 5, we didn't really plan too much past 1, besides like kind of having a loose anthology, because we didn't know if 2 was ever going to happen. And then when all the fans kept coming up to us and being like, when's Jupiter Jet 2 coming? We were like, oh man, we better write this thing.
Before people stop asking.
Before people stop caring. But even when we ended, we seeded into 1 kind of a 1-sentence idea of what Forgotten Radio was going to be before it was ever called Forgotten Radio. So we've always known that. And I will tell you this, when we were writing 2, we went on a walk for a hike one day, and on the entire hike, we literally plotted all of volume 3, and it was like, that's done. You know?
Was that when I fell into the creek?
Yes, it was.
and then forgot issue 4.
Yes. But volume 4 and volume 5 are still pretty loose. We have what we want to happen in it. But I also at the same time, I like to be, and we like to operate like this as well. Like I never like to look a gift horse in the mouth, because you just never know how the world is going to change. Like specifically, like, you know, I would say to anybody that's producing an American television show right now, maybe don't have it be about cops. Just throwing that out there.
Or a pandemic.
Not a good idea for 2021.
Yes, anyone who is actually typing a script right now and saying exterior crowd scene.
Yes. So I never want to like lock us into like something on 3, 4, and 5, but you know, we have loose ideas.
We have a Google Doc.
We have a
that's
Google
Doc.
Doc.
Got these like fever dream ideas in it.
Yeah.
We have started in volume 2. There's a lot of things that are seeds for could be in volume 3 and 4 and 5, which was not something that we felt comfortable doing in volume 1, because we might have never done more than those 5 pages, or we never might have done more than those 5 issues. So now we're feeling a little bolder.
And what is the writing process? I mean, I like the fact that you've got a Google Doc, which obviously the pair of you could just dive into at whatever point that you.
The whole book is written on Google Docs. The whole book is written on Google Docs.
I've just got this image of you, so like side by side. The day is done. You're in bed. You've got the laptops open. You're typing away, and the Google Doc keeps changing. No, I like that line. Just give it a little bit of a nudge. What is the writing process between the two?
I will say, anytime one of us doesn't want to change, like we feel very passionate about something, it always remains in. Like we're not that ruthless with each other. But typically, because Jason is a great planner, we'll open a Google Doc and we'll write all the fever dream ideas for the volume in it. And then we'll do like writerly things like story circles or wants and needs and all those. And then we'll try to structure it more. And then we'll leave it for a little bit. And then we'll come back and we'll break it down like chapter by chapter. And then eventually we'll get together. We'll do it page by page. And sometimes like scratch dialogue line by line. So until we have like a 30-page Google Doc, that's basically the outline of the entire graphic novel. And from that point, if one of us feels passionate, I want to write this scene, I want to write this scene, we'll divvy it up.
We basically divvy it up on who wants to write what.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because I don't know why, but I've been listening and going back to a lot of Monty Python this particular weekend. And I've been going through all my old albums, and I'm remembering the Monty Python writing room, which is because there's 7 members. You basically you have that leftover person who can kind of like, if there's a decision to be made, they can sort of like step in and go, okay, I can actually, it's 4-3. We can actually decide that this is the line that's staying in, or the scene that's going. When there's the 2 of you, is it a lot of thumb wars?
Thumb wars?
It's all like, no, I want this line. How do you make the decision?
I have never thought to settle a writing conflict with thumb wars before. I knew what you're talking about. That's so funny.
I'd say it's a lot more. I would say mostly respectful discussions, and then eventually there's always one conflict. You know, there's always one thing where you're like, you just can't see eye to eye on, but. The great thing about...
And then the twister mat comes out and whoever wins.
And then the cat makes the decision. Like, Grego, it's up to you, son. You got to make the decision.
I would actually say that we never really came to any drag-out fight. Like, if there are drag-out fights, it's always in...
First of all, there's never drag-out
fights.
But
but if there are ever, like, big conflicts or disagreements, it usually always happens in the pie-in-the-sky outlining process. By the time we get to the script, usually, most of the time, it's like... Well, I don't think the character should say that. Well, I do. Well, this is why I don't think the character should say this. Pitch. And then usually that wins the other person over, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Or more, I think more typically it's like, I just don't like this line of dialogue. Okay, then what else could it be?
Then give an alternate. Yeah. I don't care what it is. Just give an alternate.
It's a lot more like that.
Yeah.
But we're I think we're very fortunate because the things that we like to write, I think, are very complementary and they dovetail in a really good way, especially for this volume. I would say science was a much harder birth than Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. But interestingly enough, Jason wrote a lot of the Jackie stuff in this volume, and I wrote a lot more of like Chuck and Neil's wonderful adventures in this volume.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Like I took on the a lot of the 17-year-old young woman
Coming
scenes,
of age.
and she took on a lot of the here's the 11-year-old boy.
Yeah. So there was a lot of respectful, like, is this how a young woman would speak? Is this how a young boy would speak? I don't know.
I like as well that the character is aging as the volumes go through. Are we going to be seeing a 20-year-old Jupiter Jet by volume 5? Is it evolving in that regard?
Yeah, the idea is kind of similar to Harry Potter, that each volume will be a year further down the road. So yes, you're going to watch Jackie go from 16 to 20.
Yeah, she'll be a full-fledged woman of the galaxy by that point.
Just so long as by volume 5, it's not like an Alan Moore Jerusalem kind of tone. Just like Harry Potter, as the books get thicker and thicker and bigger. Just long as
we're always locked in. Like
it'll be a respectful 120 will be the max.
That's the thing. Like in this volume, there were several points. I'll give you an exclusive. Nobody. One of the great things about working at Action Lab, this is
with a smaller publisher,
is that Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio is actually 123 pages. Because not 120, and we were just like, "Is this okay?" And they were just like, "We don't care." And we're like, "Yeah,"
especially because we didn't do traditional issues. So if we needed to stretch or we needed time, we could add in a splash, or we could break up a page into smaller panels.
As we were getting towards the end, there were a couple of beats with, and I remember having this exact conversation with Ashley where I was like, "This could really use a splash page. Like this should be a splash page," and she was just like, "Put them in."
Well, that's also the great thing about independent comics, so we're not sort of beholden to any masters or mistresses or theises. I don't know, what's the gender neutral? Someone tell me. So if we can do whatever we want as long as we're not being unreasonable, and there's a great freedom in that to be able to take the time, because as long as Action Lab ultimately gets a graphic novel that hits 120 to 128 pages, they're really cool with that. And so we don't get away with a lot. It's not like we did anything wild. It's an all ages book, but we could take that time where we needed it.
But it's just one thing, like talking with you, I realized, I was like, I don't think we've told anybody that, like, it's actually 123.
You should have kept that to yourself. They're getting 3 pages for free, man. Come on.
No, we paid for those pages. They were not free.
They were not free.
I know what Ben's Patreon is. It was not free.
Well, that was the other thing. We had to go to Ben and be like, "Do you have the time for 3 more pages?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Fair enough. I mean, we've got Joel the Geek, who's turning around. Volume 6 will have the compendium to the universe.
I like that idea.
Going to be additional tie-in. Is that something that you've thought about doing additional stories to the world, or is it going to be the story of Jupiter Jet? Not confined, but contained within the 5 volumes.
So you were talking about Thumb Wars earlier, okay? This has been not really a thumb war, but like
an ongoing discussion.
An ongoing discussion that both of us have gone on either side of at multiple points. But I kind of feel that everybody, once you read Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, everybody's going to kind of be like, "Oh, we need a spinoff starring Chuck, or we need a one-shot with just Chuck before we get Jupiter Jet Volume 3, because Chuck goes on a journey as well. And I will say to anybody thinking about Jupiter Jet 3, once you read Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, this will make a lot of sense to you that Volume 3 is going to have a very Batman and Robin type vibe.
Oh, wow.
Which was always the pitch for that character.
It was always
from jump, from the first meeting.
So And Chuck, her little brother, we end the story with him in a very interesting place that almost begs to be like, oh, we need to see at least 20 pages of like, what does he get up to in the year between? Now, what that's going to be like, where that's going to happen, I don't know. Or a one shot of the beginning. Now, Chuck's cat is named Puddles, and he gets a much bigger part. He has a splash page in
Yes,
Jupiter Jet and the
he
Forgotten Red.
does,
There is
and we have the original art of
there is a
that.
9-panel grid of a cat in the Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. So if you haven't been convinced to buy this book up to this point, that should definitely get you over the line.
And Jupiter Jet got a cat before we got a cat, and I feel like now that we've become cat owners, Puddles is much more featured in volume 2.
Yeah. That was one of the great things. Ben gave us the original art to the cat 9-panel grid.
Nice. So the book itself comes out on Wednesday. I'm guessing all the physical books. Where are we at with the actual campaign with getting books out to backers? I mean,
We're actually going to start that tomorrow.
Because we are beholden to when publishers and printers ship books, just like everyone else.
One of the COVID realities of 2020 is that when we did Jupiter Jet, the first volume, we were able to get the copies earlier from the publisher because Action Lab is the one who prints our books. Because of COVID, that did not happen. So to be honest with you, at the time of this recording, we're actually picking up the books tomorrow.
Yeah.
And literally tomorrow, we're going to be shipping out the books. But I will say, our backers get all this exclusive swag. Our backers get... we've given them extra stickers and extra prints.
They've had the digital copies since June?
Yeah, so actually we're going to spend the next week fulfilling the book. So you may not... You guys our backers have been able to read the book ahead of everybody, but because of COVID, they won't get the physical copy. But they're the only ones going to get the exclusive prints and all that stuff that. So
one of the coolest things about the fact that we are in a pandemic now is getting the copies from us through the mail is actually one of the safest ways that you can get Jupiter Jet, barring purchasing it online because you don't have to go to a store. You don't have to handle any kind of transactions. And by the time it gets to you, it's so far removed from us and from the postal workers that it is completely clean and free and safe. So I think that's a blessing in a strange way.
I would say everybody, with all of our backers, everybody with the exception of a few way out there international backers,
because we don't control the international post.
Sure.
Contrary to what some emails think, we have no control.
They should all be able to. I would even say people in the UK would probably definitely have their copies by the end of 2020.
Fair enough. So I can imagine as well for the next 24, 48 hours, no sleep for you two.
No.
And the wrist support, some sports.
Yeah. Our American Thanksgiving is going to be cardboard and tape.
Yeah.
Man almighty. Yeah, so not so much carving the turkey, more kind of just keeping the envelopes flowing.
Well, that's the other thing. And here's the thing to think about, everybody out there watching in terms of Kickstarter, right? Anybody that has fulfilled a Kickstarter in COVID has either had to do it all by themselves or hire a fulfillment company. Now, we don't like to hire a fulfillment company because one of the things I love about Kickstarter, and actually, always give credit to the betters. I stole this from Jimmy Palmiotti, who does great Kickstarters, and I love Jimmy. I like to write, if I recognize the name, on your signed copy, I will personalize it and I'll give you a message. I love to do, or if I recognize you from a previous Kickstarter campaign, I'll slip you an extra sticker or I'll slip you an extra print because I'm like, oh, I know you. I recognize your name. So that's why I don't think we'll ever give it to a fulfillment company because that is part of the personalized touch of doing that.
But for volume 1, we did have a whole bunch of friends sitting on our living room floor helping us. Shout out to Mr. J. Washington to do that for a full 6 hours.
We invited a bunch of our friends. We're like, hey, just come over, hang out, tape a bunch of boxes.
Now it's just us and the cat, so you're gonna get a lot of Brago hair this time around.
Yep.
But we have luckily cleared our schedules, and it's gonna be like a holiday week, so we have a lot of time to get that out. So it is fortuitous timing in a lot of ways.
I predict I'm probably going to get through several seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine as I'm taping the Kickstarter packages.
Nice. I just got this mental image of family, friends coming around. Obviously that's not going to happen. But when you were having friends around, saying, "Oh, we thought we were just having a nice social evening. Here's a bottle of wine. Thank you very much indeed for that. Sit your ass down. There's a box. There's some envelopes. Give us that bottle. That goes in the fridge for later." But there we go.
We watched screeners of. Oh my God, what was that
Black
Marvel
Lightning
show?
No, it was a Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger.
It was Cloak and Dagger.
We were watching screeners
of
Cloak and Dagger when we did volume 1 because Jay had them. That's so funny.
So it's Deep Space Nine for volume 2. Okay. I'm trying to work out the direct lineage between the two of them, to be honest.
Oh, there's a lot of Star Trek in Jupiter Jet. And
Yes.
honestly, I was a huge Jake Sisko fan as a young woman, so Jake and Neil kind of look the same, so we'll go with that.
And this is me. I am a huge Star Trek fan. It is my favorite franchise. I love Star Trek before I loved comic books, and I put a Star Trek Easter egg in everything I write. Now, in Jupiter Jet Volume 1, when there's a green glowing pyramid that is like sort of the MacGuffin of the book, it's named a Verterium pyramid. Verterium is an element from Star Trek. Because I was like, why am I going to bother naming it? It's Verterium. There you go. And then in Volume 2, it's a little bit more connected because there's a red element in Volume 2. Originally, the title for Jupiter Jet 2 was going to be Jupiter Jet and the Mystery of the Red Rocks. So they discover this new element called Fontanium. And when we were writing this scene, I went to Ashley and I was like, we got to name this fake rock. That's always the hardest thing, is like naming these fake sci-fi
Gibberish
things.
names, yeah.
And I actually think we stumbled onto the solution here, because when we were writing that scene, it was a couple days after the passing of DC Fontana.
Another iconic redhead like Jupiter
Yep,
Jet.
a redhead, the great Star Trek writer who basically is responsible for everything you love about Vulcans.
And my favorite Star Trek aliens are Vulcans.
Yeah, and so I remember saying to Ashley, I was like, we should name it for her. And then it suddenly became Fontanium. So that's the Star Trek reference in Volume 2.
Nice.
Yeah, now you have homework.
But also, fun fact, there's a Beatles reference in every Volume too.
Yes, there is.
Beatles
Okay,
and
now
Star
you-
Trek go in everything I write.
Now you really are going to have to start tearing apart the book.
I'm not going to tell you where the Beatles references are.
You see, no clues at all. That's
Yep.
great.
You'll have to have us back for that. That's just the way this is going to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no. I think people should try and hunt for it.
Yeah.
Let them go. Something I kind of touched on in very briefly in passing, but we'll kind of start kind of wrapping things up with a question which I'm really excited to ask, because I really want to know what your reaction was when you won the Ringo Award for Volume 1, because I mean, it's the Ringo Award. It's a prestigious award, but it also carries with it the name of somebody who loved his audience, loved the books that he did. What was your reaction when on winning that award?
So I'm sorry to correct you, but we've never won a Ringo Award.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were.
I mean, if
won the
someone
award.
said what we did, thank you to them. But we've only been nominated. We've been nominated twice.
Okay,
Never
my
won.
apologies.
But it was just
I was truly amazing because we never thought we'd be nominated for anything.
Look, Mike Waringo is one of my favorite comic book creators of all time, and it actually is a regret that I'll never have a chance to get him to draw anything that I could ever write, or to get him to do a cover or anything like that. So the fact that we've been nominated I remember, because I'm on the Ringo's mailing list. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we got the nomination for Jupiter Jet Volume 1, I tweeted it out a couple of times and just said, hey, everybody, we want to do it. And I remember reading that email and literally seeing Jupiter Jet and just being like, and I think I immediately grabbed you and was like, you got to look at this.
Yeah.
I think partly because I was surprised, but also partly was I was like, am I going crazy? Am I reading this right? Did they say us?
We also, though,
Wow.
this year, we lost to Raina Telgemeier, who is someone who we both really
love.
We knew we were toast the minute she was
we knew she was going to get it. Of course, she's amazing.
But to have our little books, and our books are little. They're small, independent comics.
Yeah, I mean, science is only 6 by 9. So.
Yeah, it's a small book. They don't have the power of Scholastic behind them. So to be spoken of in the same breath, that's winning would have been amazing. And hopefully we'll win in the future. But it's nice that it's kind of nice to have someone say, hey, this is really good.
Yeah. Next year's plan is to do some sort of hostage negotiation with the Ringo Awards. We think 50% that might work. 50%.
Well, I mean, if they go back to the model that they did this year with the Mainframe Comic Con guys, where they were just trying to Marshall, and they were spinning so many plates. If you can just
Yeah.
sneak into the StreamYard and just hijack it, and just go for it, go in that direction, who knows? Let's see
Well,
what
by the way,
happens.
it is possible to do that. By the way, I just want to give everybody like we did the John 1 charity drive for service members a couple weeks back, and we had a person
Try to get in.
pop in that was not a guest
and should not have had the link.
so like like you can like what is it called, Zoom hopping
Zoom
or Zoom
bombing. I don't
Zoom
know what they
Zoom
call it.
bombing. Yeah, you can StreamYard bomb apparently too. I don't know how, but
Also,
apparently you can.
I gotta ask you, just why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, fair enough. Volume 2 out on Wednesday on stores from Action Lab. Volume 3, like you say, the Kickstarter campaign, you're starting to put the engine together, starting to get the gears turning on that. Do you have a time frame of when that could possibly go live? And do you have any other projects in between? What else is in the fire?
I think in a pink and perfect world, we would love for it to be next year, but that depends on so many other factors right now that are out of our control. The Kickstarter that we're actually gearing up for next is a Jason solo jaunt.
Oh, wow.
So that's very exciting because that'll be early next year.
Yeah, I have I've been putting together a book with George Kimbatis, who's an amazing artist on Twitter. And right now it's called, the code name is Book Best Friend. And a lot of people have always asked me, as being a Kansas farm boy, like, what is my Superman story? And so this is my take on Superman, based around an original character that I created years ago. And this is basically like, imagine if Jimmy Olsen live streamed everything that Superman did. And that's the story. And hopefully that's going to launch in late to mid-January of next year.
Because, carry on.
Oh, I was going to say, and then we're working on the publisher that originally published Science has closed their doors, has shuttered their production. So we're working on finding Tamsin a new home, and I'm working on finding Aurora a proper home, which was my Kickstarter from a couple years ago. So there will definitely be more comics. It's just a matter of when and where.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Christopher Nolan model, where it's like, when he did the Dark Knight trilogy, he always did a movie in between. So like, I want to give people something else. So, in between the volumes of Jupiter Jet. But
you're keeping the creative juices. It's not just locked into a storyline. You kind of, and not only that, but it's something that then you can come back to and kind of polish up and make sure it's nice and perfect for when it goes out the door. I totally understand that. Joel the Geek is saying, can't wait for that. So
Sweet,
obviously you have yourself a backer already for that project.
Oh yeah,
up and running.
Joel is a deep cut Jawan supporter. We love him.
And solicitors make what you have for Thanksgiving: paper cuts, lots and lots of paper cuts.
I don't get cut by paper that often. Maybe I'm more careful.
No, it's more the tape dispenser.
Yeah, that's where you're gonna get cut.
She's evil.
Oh man, is this the taste of letter? It's maybe it's. I mean, if you're like yourself and you're experienced and you know about these, you get the tear off envelopes.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
I will also say, since this is like going to be our 4th Kickstarter now, we've kind of gotten.
You've got the engine.
We know the tricks and we know all the shortcuts.
Yeah,
now.
we did stupid shipping the first 2 times.
Oh yeah,
and we learned.
Excellent. And also, you've got your extracurricular activities as well. If you can just pimp your wares, as it were. Let us know what shows and podcasts and everything else that you're up to at the moment.
The best place to always find us is Ashley and I do a weekly podcast called Geek History Lesson. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Spotify. It's basically where we take one character, construct, title, book, movie, and we explain it all in a little bit less than an hour with some fun conversation. We're going to cross 400 episodes on that next year, which is great.
Wow.
And then you can find me and us on YouTube whenever we randomly post at youtube.com/Jawin, JAWIN. We're putting up clips from the Jawin charity drive, like a conversation with Kevin Smith and a conversation with Susan Eisenberg and various people that came and helped us out in the charity drive, in case people want to watch it in in case they don't want to
Scrub through
through 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think as well, when I spoke to Jason last time, you were just getting yourself geared up for mainframe as well, for Baltimore as well.
Yeah.
The pair of you are fantastic hosts when you're on camera.
When we care, no.
In terms of virtual cons, is 2020 done and done now? Are you
for us? It is.
I mean, hey, if you're watching this like around the time it's coming out, Saturday, Small Business Saturday. So if you want to come to jasonman.com/store and make that a con, we got comics there. But probably we haven't been. I don't know how many are going on for the rest of the year.
I think everyone saw Baltimore as kind of like the line in the sand.
Yeah. And that's fine. My hope is that maybe at this time next year we'll actually be back somewhere.
Fingers crossed.
That would.
Or like Los Angeles Comic Con is typically Halloween weekend, beginning of November. So like realistically, that's the one I'm eyeing as maybe being a realistic expectation. I have
a lot of hope and fear that New York Comic Con 2021 is going to be the con that determines next year. If New York Comic Con 2021 is safe enough to happen, because it usually happens in October or November.
Yeah.
They could push it to November. Then I think everybody will be like, oh, there it is. They broke the seal. But I think anything before then that's not a virtual con is kind of foolish.
Yeah.
That includes San Diego?
I think so. I don't.
Sorry, now
I know.
Now we're getting into a very deep conversation.
I don't know, man. I
think if it happens, I don't think you are going to see the level of stars that we've become used to seeing in a post-Wanted, post-Twilight era, because I don't know if you're going to be able to convince the entire cast of Shang-Chi or the entire cast of I don't know, Wonder Woman 3. Like, I think it's going to be a harder sell, and something that Fandom and Mainframe really succeeded at this year was, you know what's cheaper than flying Gal Gadot to San Diego? Shooting Gal Gadot in her home and broadcasting that to the world. So I think next year, I think for San Diego specifically, I think it's going to be a hybrid between, I think they're going to have some, because I don't think the city of San Diego cannot have it next year. I think we'll see some presence, but I don't know if those big Hall H doorbuster were lining up at 5:30 on a Thursday to get in on Saturday. I don't know if all of those are going to be in person or if they might be virtual.
I agree with that, because I just think on the side of the fans, and I think on the side of the creators and the stars and people like that, I think July next year is still going to be a little too early for anybody to feel safe. But a year from right now, I could see it. I could see it a year from now, everybody being like, okay, the vaccine's been around for a while. Cases are going way down, or like they're like at 2% now. Hopefully, please. I feel safe now. Yeah, okay. I feel all right going to an airport and shaking Grant Morrison's hand, or whatever. I don't know why I picked Grant Morrison.
Also, as someone who's been on an Amazon TV set and a Warner Brothers TV set since the pandemic, the level of oversight that has to go into making that environment safe is incredibly high, and shows like All American are still getting shut down. So just like with that, like, what are they going to do? Cut tickets in half? I mean, that's still a lot.
It's a similar situation over here in the UK. I don't think I've announced this on the show before. I've mentioned it
exclusive.
Well, kind of. My brother is a background actor. He does he's an SA, as they call it in the trade, and he's been doing work on the Batman. He's been doing work on a couple of Sky shows, and yet the level of protection that they are building into production is incredible, to make sure that everybody is safe. And even then, we have the stories like the Batman, where they've had it to shut, where something is snuck in.
Does your brother know Kevin McLeod? Because we're obsessed with him.
It's so funny you took it. It's so funny you took it down that road. I was going to ask. So I know it's no longer Doctor Who Day on your side of the pond, but it's still Doctor Who Day on our side of the pond. And I have the question: has your brother made it on the Doctor Who?
No.
Damn.
And even if it no, and even if he has, my brother's. I mean, I say he's an SA. My brother does seem to be having a knack of you seeing his elbow or a left shoulder or his backside. He was in the last Harry Potter film, and you saw his backside for about 5 seconds.
The most famous backside in the business. I love it.
We'll have to put that onto his show reel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's his new business card.
fantastic. Listen, thank you so much indeed for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we've got Aaron Neighbours saying Geek History Lessons, one of my top 5
thank you, Aaron.
podcasts to listen to.
His Hall H podcast
yeah,
is just
Aaron
good.
also has a wonderful podcast.
He does indeed. The All Late Show, well worth checking out. I'm going to put this up on screen as well, so people to go and check out and find out more information about it. Jupiter Jet Comic. Do find out more and follow that account for all the updates, including volumes 3, 4, and 5 as they appear down the line.
And if you get a copy of Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, tag that account because we want to share you with your copy. Like, so take a picture of yourself with your copy, take a picture of the book in shops, take a picture of the book wherever you
with
find it. If you find it on the side of the street, take a picture of it. We want to retweet it.
Excellent stuff. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for coming on.
Thank you for staying up late.
Yes, thank you for time zones.
And thanks to your family as well.
Yes, we love you. We appreciate you.
Well, I mean, at this point, one is very much asleep, and the other one is probably playing solitaire and waiting for me to shut up and go to bed at this point. So, yeah. But listen, thank you so much indeed for coming on, and all the best for the success for the books going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. This was a great time.
Brilliant. Excellent stuff. There you go. The account is right there, still up on screen. Jupiter Jet Comic. Do follow that for all the updates for Jason and Ashley's book and all the bits and pieces they've got going forward. And that's us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for this incidental episode. Once again, we are going to be doing something a little bit special as we have ourselves our Wednesday show. We haven't been we've been doing the Wednesday shows while we've still been in lockdown here in the UK, just a way for me to keep some kind of semblance of time in my head. But as it happens, we've got a couple more episodes to go with this particular format. And we do have a very, very special show that's going to be taking place on Wednesday. So please do join us as we are joined by Aditya Bidikar. Now, if you are not too familiar with his name, I would suggest you pick up your comics and check them out because he has been the letterer on a whole range of projects over the course of the summer. He's definitely one of the letterers of the moment right now. I have been trying my best to get Aditya along with a whole bunch of known lettering creatives to come on and do a letterers panel or do a letterers special, because for me, and has been proven by a recent Disney Plus, the 616 episode, where they were talking about the Marvel method and talking about the production of a big Marvel comic. The letterer does kind of get left all the way down the pecking order, right up to the wire when it comes to the book hitting the shelves. The pressures of getting that right, and at the end of the day, for myself, the letterer sets an absolute tone. They are as important as the colorist and the artist because they are the voice. They are while the artist may be the cameraman and the colorist may be the lighting director, the person who's directing the volume and the sound direction of the whole comic is the letterer. So looking forward to talking to Aditya on Wednesday about the challenges of doing what he does in a modern comics landscape. That's going to be a cool show. As always, we are going to be here on on Sunday as well. This Sunday, going to be our special episode with the White Noise Studios chaps, Alex Packnadell, Ram V, Dan Waters and Ryan O'Sullivan. Do go check out their books, which they're doing at the moment. Giga from Alex Packnadell, very, very nice indeed. Red Fork on TKO Studios is some of his best writing. Ram V has got some amazing books out at the moment. Dan Waters, listen, all four of them are on fire. So definitely looking forward to talking to them. Going to be hopefully announcing our special guest for next Wednesday, 2nd of December, in the next couple of days. Fingers crossed. And then we've got Amanda Dybert with Mark Serby on Sunday, the 6th of December, and Sunday, the 13th of December, Bob Fingerman and Matt Medney from... it's escaped me. You could tell it's very late here in the UK right now. From heavy metal, of course. So there we go. Those are our guests for now. Do like, subscribe, comment. Let us know below what you've thought of the show. Let everyone else know what you've thought of the show as well. Please do highlight what we've been doing because it allows us to spread the word the best we can. From me to you, thank you very much indeed for stopping up late with me here on Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, and I will see you on Wednesday for my episode with Aditya Bidikar. Take care.